Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another exciting edition of Greg in Your Ear, the series where I speak quietly and close to the mic because my son is sleeping and I'm trying not to wake him up. Today, we're going to talk about Stellaris, but actually, more than that, we're going to talk about projects and things like that. In the last video, I asked you guys for questions in case you wanted to ask me anything, and I got a lot of questions that could be answered in simple yes or no questions. A couple of them stood out to me, but some of them I didn't really want to get into too much because they were personal things, like what happened to your ex. I think I did talk about that some in a personal time episode, but at this point it's feels really far in the past. I mean, getting married and having a child is I don't know, a pretty big life step, and most of my life has revolved around my kid since having him. He's pretty great. He's running around. He's walking now. He knows dad and mom, and so when he wakes up in the morning, I can hear him shouting "Dada, Dada" from the other room. So that's how I know he's ready to go. But anyway, Stellaris, I guess I was going to comment a little bit on this. Stellaris is in some hot water right now. I guess the company that's been selling this has gone over to the mobile market, and a lot of people in the gaming community aren't real big fans of the mobile market because they're pretty exploitative. They're just trying to get your money, buy these diamonds and then you can play the game to a competent level. And so it's not really about your fun so much as it is about milking you for money. It's a pretty exploitative sort of setting, but it's also really lucrative, so a lot of companies want to go into it. I think it's cheaper to make mobile games too. So the whole catch is just like it looks like this really unappealing, if not, scummy kind of thing. And I guess Stellaris contracted with some kind of Chinese company who then ripped off code from another game, and it was found out that they just stolen code to make a Stellaris mobile. So that was a whole big fiasco. And not only that, Stellaris has gone through a whole ton of updates since it was released. And so originally it ran, maybe not beautifully, but as the game goes on, you have these little population guys that your people all live on this planet, and you may have up to hundreds of them. And every single frame of the game, they calculate what it is they're going to do with their time. They ask should I be a farmer today or should I be a scientist? They have that amazing sort of job mobility that we all wish we had. And it takes a lot of calculation speed. I guess this is why in real life you can't just switch jobs on the fly, because otherwise whatever CPU computes the universe would melt. So as these games go on, unless you keep the settings real small and keep everything real tiny, the game will slow down to a crawl and become kind of unplayable. Most people stop playing, I hear, by the year 2300, which is halfway through. They don't even get to the end of the game. This is a smaller game, so I'm making it, and this is also on my older computer. I updated to a new computer because the hardware I had was 10 years old, and a lot of it was starting to fail. I had a hard drive and it was starting to click. I actually had two hard drives, one for storage and then one for running the operating system. I hadn't even really used an SSD yet because I bought this stuff that long ago. So they were starting to click and I had to replace them, and so I replaced I had the SSD replaced, and then my old fan kind of went out on me, so I bought a new cooler for the computer. And so parts were just gradually failing and dying, and as it was starting to look like I was going to have to just rebuild the computer anyway, because piece by piece everything was sort of failing. Some of it's still good. Claudia wants a basic work desktop, and my old computer's not fast, but it's not bad, so we'll convert what's left of it into a computer for her. And that'll be a nice way. I have a hard time throwing away computer parts. I always feel like I'm going to need them for something. But I've got a new computer, and the other reason was that Microsoft is forcing everyone to switch away from Windows 7 so you can get their bloaty sort of mobile operating system. I've got that installed now, and that's what I'm working from. A lot of apps that I used have updated. I'm still using some old ones. I've got a super old version of Sony Vegas that I use for editing. It never stopped being functional. It still works for everything that I need it to do, because I do most of my editing and auxiliary programs. But it was really difficult to install. I had to install another program to get some packages that this thing tries to go to some repository that's not there anymore. I don't know. Whatever the case, I just barely got this thing installed, and I don't think it'll survive another update. I won't need it to be updated. I don't need new software, but at some point I guess I'll have to give in. Toon Boom Harmony, I got that transferred over, and it turns out they're really strict with their product registration. So you have to uninstall Toon Boom on your old system before you install it on the new one, or otherwise you run into this trouble of it says, hey, I see you've got this thing licensed on another computer. Why is it still on that computer? And so I had to get in contact with them and be like, so my old computer is dead. It's gone. I've replaced it with this one. What do I do? And they got back to me like really fast, and they got it all taken care of. And some of the guys kind of joked. They were like, yeah, well, for as expensive of a product as that software is, they should be pretty swift. But I feel like in this day and age, with tech companies doing the bare minimum that they can to get away with everything, it's really nice to just send in a ticket and then have it resolved within, like, seriously, 10 minutes of me emailing them. So, not a lot of people are making it as animators these days, but if you're ever considering using the Toon Boom Harmony software, I do have to say it's the customer service is pretty good, at least as of this date. So, yeah, so that's good. Everything's all transferred over. Everything works so far. There's a little bit of my tablet is a little laggy on Windows 10. I don't know what's up with that. I tried looking into it and saw that a lot of people have the problem. It's not hindering my work. I just had to mentally adjust to it because it's like you put the pen down, you draw a line, and then the line follows like a second later. And it's not consistently laggy is the other thing. So it's just sort of a weird, I don't know, predisposition of the operating system. I don't know what to do about it. But yes, there's updates on things that I'm doing right now. Steeb is going to be going back to black and white. Partly this is so I can get Steeb done on time a little bit better. The black and white, having gone back to it and done a new comic, I feel like it's actually a little bit better for Steeb because it kind of sets this really serious noir tone, and yet here you got this guy in a hot dog suit, so it's maybe better overall, but more importantly it's faster, so I'll be able to get Steeb done more in a more timely manner. But moreover, more than that, I'll actually maybe switch back to 2 a week if I can manage it. But before I do that, one thing I want to do is I had a little revival on the animation channel where I had a little robot animated. He's walking along. And some people got all excited because they're like, oh, you're back. And, I don't really have time to come back and animate whole projects again. And of course on YouTube, like it's just, dead in the water anyway. There's not a whole lot of point in investing time into a major project except for just for its own sake. So for its own sake, I was thinking that I would do a sort of not really animatic, but like almost a slideshow of like what would NAS have been if I finished it. And so I'll just kind of narrate what was NAS supposed to be, and I'll do little drawings, kind of similar to Peel Off if you've watched Peel Off, or the My Peel Off series on the animation channel. I never know who's transferred over to what, and there's a bunch of people who haven't even heard of this gaming channel, and the gaming channel is becoming a blog channel because everything on YouTube is some kind of blog. So, I was going to do just basically like a verbal explanation of what NAS was going to be and tell you like what are the story points, what is this going to be, and I'll do little drawings so that'll be visually interesting. And the visual medium won't be wasted, unlike it is here with Greg in your ear. And that'll be fun. And then someone else, they asked if I could talk about Jim the Romantic Journey. Like, what was the plan with that? Where was it going? What was with the gnome? I think they called it a fairy, actually. And they were gnomes. And Jim the Romantic Journey was the direction that we were going. As it turns out that everyone kind of has these weird little talents that they have. I haven't seen My Hero Academia, but my friends keep talking about it, so I guess I'm gonna compare Jim the Romantic Journey to My Hero Academia without having seen it, and say, it's a bunch of kids with superpowers learning to harness those powers, basically just not to fight crime, but to fight each other, gladiator style. So it was kind of a joke on the whole like ninja village thing, where like in Naruto, it feels like that's a lot of what they do is the kids are just like training to be ninjas, and then what do the ninjas do? Well, sometimes they get hired to protect a guy who's gonna build a bridge or something like that, but a lot of times they just go to the ninja arena, or like their dumbass friend stabs them in the back and they have this whole it's a whole thing, and they gotta work out, this jackass, I gotta hunt him down and avenge my honor. So it was that kind of thing where it was like they just train all their lives to kill each other in like single combat, and that would be kind of all they have going for them. But it turned out that the gnomes, PBN actually did a comic about this, so this was released information. You just probably didn't see it if you didn't use the website. But the gnomes were these little clerical workers for the universe, basically. In the very beginning, there were two creatures. I believe it was like a dragon, and I can't remember what the other one was. Something. And so these two gods, they had some sort of fight. And they were fighting each other for a long time, and then they realized that they were fighting each other over nothing. So they realized that that was dumb. They should create something to fight over. So they created the universe, so that way they could fight over the universe. And so they fought over the universe for a while, and then they decided it still felt kind of empty because there was no one around to see them fight, and they thought that someone should see the fight. You see, the whole universe just revolved around pointless fighting. So they created Monkey, which later evolved into man, and they asked Monkey, to make a decision. And so like Monkey was kind of dumb, and so Monkey tried to figure out who was the best god and to make this choice based on Monkey's like really limited. Sort of, like they tried to make sort of like a pure innocent sort of creature, like very dumb, but also driven to conflict, so it would understand conflict. And so Monkey just couldn't decide on a winner, and so like Monkey asked if there could be more monkeys to help Monkey choose, and so they made more monkeys, and then Monkey had babies, and Monkey formed a society, and then Monkey kind of forgot what it was supposed to be doing. And so the gods, being these timeless beings, eventually realized that Monkey wasn't going to do anything, so they created the gnomes. And the gnomes, their whole lives revolve around doing calculations to figure out which god is the best god. And the trick is that the gods are actually equal in power and whatever. You've got a little bit of the yin and yang thing, but they really don't represent good and evil. They just represent themselves. So they're equally matched, and the gnomes just spend all of eternity calculating these evenly matched things that they could be measured on. And the trick with the gnomes, though, is that because they understand the really deep, like, underlying material the universe is made of, because they were created to do this, they have ways to sort of, they can fill out paperwork and then request things to happen, changes in the universe occur. And part of this trick is there was like a currency of paperwork. I can't recall exactly how this was going to work, but I remember PBN and I both discussed it, where like you could requisition a form at no cost, but then like forms actually did have a physical cost because they were paper. And so if you requisitioned enough forms, and then like there was a way to kind of exploit the system to create, it wasn't really free energy, but to make the whole gnome bureaucracy system at the end of the universe do things that you wanted. And the more gnomes you had, the faster you could get the paperwork all filled out. So yes. I think that my son's awake, so this is going to be a shorter one than usual. But anyway, though, you could get all of these forms filled out. I might have woken him up. I didn't shut my door. I probably should have done that. Anyway, though, so you could get these forms filled out, and they would do things that you wanted. So in the episode where the kids find that gnome, he's able to sort of like summon a rudimentary trap just by himself. And he takes some supplies and turns it into a trap. He just asks the universe to say, like, okay, this is a trap. This is this thing that you want. So that was the power of the gnomes. And it turns out that all the really powerful fighters are basically using the gnomes kind of the same way that the gods were trying to use the gnomes, in that if you have a bunch of gnomes, you can ask them to sort of change things about the way the universe works and give you more power and evaluate your enemies, or they can tell you things about your enemies that maybe you're not supposed to know, or they could hide things by filing paperwork and blocking the other gnomes. So there's this whole kind of like bureaucratic nightmare, and it was going to turn out that Dell had like tons of these guys. From back when Dell was like this really top-notch fighter. Like Dell was a really aggressive fighter, but Dell kind of hated the sort of cheating stuff that went on. He did it because you have to, and so he's got a bunch of these little gnomes, but he doesn't really approve of it, and because he sort of didn't jive with the powers that be and the whole hierarchy system that got people to higher positions of power, he sort of fell out of it and was sort of knocked out of it because they didn't want him in it anymore. So that was going to be the thing, is that it was going to turn out that the kids were going to do their matches, and they're going to have the gnome, and the gnome was going to kind of help them out, and they were going to think it was like cheating, because all the other kids were going to find out, and it was going to turn out that it wasn't cheating, And gradually, as they fought other people, they would get more gnomes. And then at some point, Del would just explain, like, all right, so, I mean, it is kind of cheating, but there's no rule against it. Here's how it works, and they would kind of go from there. So that was the basis of that. That's what that was all about. And anyway, like I said, my son's awake. I can hear him fussing in the other room, so I gotta go fetch him. So I hope that was interesting for you guys, and the next Radio Skyline should be up at some point. I like to give a deadline and say, like, well, it'll be up this Thursday or Friday, but then sometimes things come up, or I don't get any sleep or something like that. Like Claudia's sick, or Miles might be teething. Sometimes I can't predict what exactly I'm gonna be up for as far as work, but if all things go well, Radio Skyline should be up this week, and then we'll have more Steve, and then later down the line, we're going to get that NAS thing, and that'll all be good. So, yeah, anyway, I suppose that's it. I hope you guys are having a great day, and I'll talk to you next time.